I mean, you're talking about a guy that missed 5 weeks, comes back, plays 30 minutes, and drops 28 points. Everybody else's body is banged up. This guy has fresh legs. We're not talking about a role player. We are talking about a two-time MVP guy. And I just think the league is really in trouble if he continues to play like that because he's fresh.
I think the worst news is that the Warriors didn't even play at their top end in Game 2 because Klay Thompson had a terrible game.
Well, worse unless you're a Golden State fan.
That's true. And that's one of the things that when Klay has had some transition issues when Steph has come back in the past because his role has changed. I think the ceiling is even higher than we saw. I think everybody would agree with that. What's really scary, not only is how good Steph looked, as you mentioned, but their execution level offensively has been awesome in the postseason. And when they're clicking on all cylinders offensively, I just don't know if any team in history can handle them. And so if they use the rest of the series to get well, to prepare for the next round, whether it's Houston or somebody else, whether it's
somebody
Houston,
else.
it's probably Houston. Whether it's, I think that they're actually in a sweet spot. I think they really were smart about when they brought Steph back, and this potentially be perfect. I'm really high on the Warriors right now.
Well, it's interesting. Steph tried to get into Game 1. And he said that actually in the couple days between Game 1 and Game 2, his body felt noticeably better. So he had to admit to Steve Kerr and to the athletic training staff that they were right. That was not so easy for him. But I want to reserve a little bit of judgment for what you guys are saying, because I remember the first couple games after Isaiah Thomas came back on the Cavaliers after that long layoff from his hip injury. We thought he was great. And then there were some problems. After the Cavaliers trade, when those new players came in, those new guys are unstoppable until they weren't. So my only caution with Steph Curry is clearly, I mean, he's a two-time MVP. We know how good he is if he's great. He did have a little bit of trouble the last time he came back from the knee injury, and not in the first game. Remember, it kind of only showed up later.
Well, I've always told you as a player, when you've been out of the lineup for quite some time, that first game back, it's all adrenaline. And I just don't think that's the case with Steph.
Right.
He knows his body. I'm sure he had experience from the last time he tried to come back, and he wasn't 100% healthy.
Yes.
So learning from that experience, I'm sure now his body is good, he's feeling healthy, and he's ready to go.
I acknowledge everything you said, Rachel. It's a smart take, and that's exactly...
It's measured, it's reasonable. There's no
right.
room for that on sports TV.
It shows your experience level covering the NBA. However, last time that Curry came back, they didn't have Kevin Durant in reserve in case he was struggling a little bit. And that's what makes this team so potent. And we'll see, but the Warriors look really good right now.
Yeah, and, I've been saying it for the last month. The thing I worry about with Steph is whether he's overcompensating a little bit upon his return, because it's the opposite knee from the opposite ankle he's had trouble with.
True.
So that is the other thing we will watch over the next month as they try to march through this postseason, is making sure not only the knee is healthy, but that his ankle that he's had troubles with this season healthy as well. Let's move on to Andrew Wiggins then, because, look, I got to tell you guys, we talked about his big payday, right, before the season, where the owner said, I expect more from you upcoming from giving you all this money, and wasn't quite able to live up to expectations. But then again, neither did the Wolves as a whole. And Wiggins discussed his final thoughts on this year with the Pioneer Press. Take a look at what he said. Quote, I learned a lot, but I don't think I had the best season. It's motivation for the summer. Mr. Timberwolves, what do you think about this?
I actually thought that he had some moments at the end of the year. He had a couple of humongous free throws under pressure in the last game of the season. And there were times in that Wolves series, and Jimmy Butler was obviously still hurt. I'm giving him a total pass. But there were times in that series where Karl Towns and some other guys weren't playing their best, where Wiggins was, he wasn't playing top-level basketball, but he actually did okay. So I actually am a little bit more, I feel a little bit better about Wiggins towards the end of the season than I did sort of at midseason. I still think that the top end of this team will be determined by how good he becomes. And we're now 4 years in. We've seen it. And typically you see guys make jumps by now. You kind of know who you are 4 years. And if this is who Andrew Wiggins is going to be, then he's going to be a disappointing player. So the challenge is definitely there for him.
I hope he's not a disappointing player. I really expect more out of him. The talent is there. I think sometimes Andrew just gets caught, just floating in games.
For sure.
Whereas he has the talent to be able to make a huge impact, whether it's defensively or offensively, and take over games. And he just, right now, just doesn't get it. But I'm available. Come work out with me, wait. My Adidas guy.
Do you actually mean it, or is this an actual
I'm
invitation?
serious. I talked to him about this during the Hall of Fame weekend, and We exchange numbers. I would love to work him out because the upside for him is huge because he's so talented.
Right.
He just has to realize that what they expect of him. I mean, you signed a $150 million contract. You got to deliver now.
I would come to work out with you just to hang out by your pool after the workout.
Ryan, anytime you want to, man.
He's got one of the best
Anytime.
pools in Texas, as far as I can tell.
And a very nice gym if you follow his IG stories. So he absolutely, this is something Andrew Wiggins should take him up on. Let's get to what the Jump recommends for today. The undefeated Mark Spears has a great piece on Rajon Rondo, just sort of his resurgence in this postseason with the Pelicans. Wasn't that long ago people were leaving him for dead after that trip in Dallas. Wasn't that long ago he struggled in Sacramento, and yet he's got a pretty good record in the playoffs since then with both Chicago and New Orleans.
So my boy Donovan Mitchell just texted me, and he plays on these Dame 4s. This has been his shoe all season long, and we're going to do some Venom work on these, so looking forward to it. My name is Salvador Amezcua from Los Angeles, California. I kind of fell into customizing all by accident. My cousin asked me if I could fix his shoes, so I started by restoring a pair of shoes. Did more research, saw that art was being done on shoes, and that's how I got to where I'm at today. I like the challenge, because when you look at the shoe, it's kind of hard to figure out how you're gonna lay out the theme. A little bit before preseason, I realized that Karl Anthony Towns was following me on social media, so I reached out to him, kind of shot my shot. He replied within, I think it was like a minute, and we had a sit down, and he thought I was the perfect candidate to, put some flavor on his kicks. From the beginning to now, I had Karl Anthony Towns, and now I have over probably about 40 players in the NBA, and, growing. I've been able to work with Karl Anthony Towns, Hassan Whiteside, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Ricky Rubio. I got connected to Donovan Mitchell through a really good friend of mine, Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers. Where Montrezl was wearing my pair, he actually connected me with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan is a monster. I knew it from the moment that he started in the league. He was going to be a beast, so it was an honor. And now it's really fun to have him as a friend and see him sport my work on the court. What's up, my boy?
What's good?
Chillin'. Got a little something for you.
Oh, man. Always got something.
Go for it.
Ooh, these are hard right here. These are hard. Yeah, I like these. More big every time, too.
Started with you, now I'm pretty much doing the whole thing.
Speed, huh?
Yeah. You got the eyes. It's like they're staring at you.
Mine are better, but it's okay. All right.
So we played, what was it, the Clippers? Yeah, we played the Clippers, came out here to LA, Montrez. I've known Trez, we went to the same school. Trez, hooked me up with him, and, for a few weeks, I wanted to feel him out, I wanted to see what he was doing, so I saw what he did with Cat, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I did stuff that really meant, a lot to me, but, for me, Louisville, I went to Louisville, obviously, Martin Luther King Day, Spider is kind of my nickname, so stuff that's really close to me, I wanted to be able to express on the court and allow fans to see that, and yeah, you definitely feel like the eyes looking at it and kind of feel the little oohs and ahs.
Look closely at his shoes. He's got some new fresh kicks by Kickstradamus, and what's on them? Venom, Spider-Man's arch nemesis.
He's done a great job allowing me to express, and show people who I am, where I come from, and what I mean through shoes.